The day they buried my father, the sky looked angry. The clouds were dark like smoke, and the wind kept blowing dust into my eyes. People filled our compound. Some crying, some pretending, some whispering things they didn't want me to hear. I sat on the mat in front of the house, beside my mother. Her wrapper was tied carelessly, her eyes red and swollen. Every few minutes she would shake her head and mutter, "Chukwu ekwena, Nana, why did you leave us like this?" I wanted to hold her, to tell her everything would be fine, but deep down I wasn't sure. My father, Chief Nana Okori, was a man everybody respected when he was alive. He had a loud laugh, strong handshake, and a way of talking that made people believe in him. But after he died, people started saying things. Some said he owed them money. Some said he took goods from their shops and never paid. Some even said he borrowed from the community fund. At first, I didn't believe them. How could my father, a whole chief, be owing people like that? But after the burial, I started seeing letters, receipts, and people coming one by one with evidence. "Chike, your father promised to pay me last month," one old man said, standing at our gate. "I trusted him because of you people. Please don't disgrace his name." Another woman came the next day, crying that my father took a loan from her husband before he died. I didn't know what to say. I was the first son. People were now looking at me like the new Chief Nana. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat outside, watching the moon hide behind clouds. My younger brother, Obina, came and sat beside me. "Chike," he said quietly, "you can't pay all those debts. Let them carry their wahala." I shook my head. "No, Obina. Papa's name cannot spoil. Whatever it takes, I'll pay everything. I'll make sure nobody says our father was a thief." He looked at me and sighed. "But what if the debts are too much?" "I'll find a way," I said. "Even if I sell land, even if I sell my car, I'll pay it." That was the night I made the promise that changed my life. A promise that almost broke me later. I didn't know then that the debts I was trying so hard to pay were not for our family. They were for something else, something my father hid from all of us. After the burial, the house became quiet like a graveyard. The people that came to cry all went back to their homes. The food finished, the drinks finished, and what was left was silence, the kind that makes your chest feel heavy. Every morning, I woke up before everybody. I would sweep the compound, then sit with my father's old briefcase, that brown leather one he never allowed anybody to touch. I wanted to understand how deep his debts were. One afternoon, I sat under the mango tree in our compound, opening paper after paper. Receipts, bank slips, loan agreements. The more I read, the more confused I became. My father owed almost everybody. Some small amounts, some big. But one thing stood out. Many of the papers had the same name written on them, Ngozi Eze. At first, I thought it was one of his business partners, but something didn't feel right. The receipts were for things like rent, school fees, hospital bills. Those didn't sound like business to me. I carried the papers to Mama that evening. She was in the kitchen peeling yam. "Mama," I said, sitting beside her, "who's Ngozi Eze?" She frowned. "Ngozi? I don't know any Ngozi. Why?" I showed her one of the receipts. She looked at it, hissed, and said, "Your father had many workers. Maybe she was one of them." But her voice didn't sound sure. Later that night, I sat in my room staring at those papers again. My heart refused to rest. I knew I needed to find out who that woman was. The next morning, I carried the papers and entered a bus to Nsukka, the address written on one of the receipts. The journey was long. I didn't even eat. My mind was heavy, but I needed answers. When I got to the street, I asked the little boy, "Please, do you know any Madame Ngozi that lives here?" He pointed to a small cream-colored bungalow. My heart started beating fast. I walked to the gate and knocked. A young girl, maybe 12 years old, opened the door. She looked at me and paused. "Good afternoon," I said. "I'm looking for your mummy." She ran inside and shouted, "Mummy, one man is looking for you." A few seconds later, a woman came out, tall, fair, and wearing a simple gown. She looked shocked when she saw me. "Good afternoon," she said slowly. "You are?" "My name is Chike Okori," I said. "I'm Chief Nana's son." Her hand fell to her side. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she whispered, "So, you finally know." That was when my chest went cold. I didn't understand what she meant yet, but I knew. That woman was not just a stranger. She was part of the secret my father left behind. For some seconds, I just stood there staring at her. The woman, Ngozi, looked like someone who had carried a heavy secret for too long. She told the little girl to go inside, then turned back to me. "Come in," she said quietly. Her house was small but neat. There was the smell of soup in the air and children's books scattered on the table. I sat down slowly, my eyes moving around. There were pictures on the wall, my father's face smiling in some of them. I froze. "Madam," I said softly, "why is my father's picture here?" She sighed deeply. "Because he was my husband too." For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. My ears started ringing. "Your husband?" I repeated. "My father?" She nodded slowly, tears already gathering in her eyes. "Yes, Chike, we were married secretly. Your father didn't want the world to know. He said it would cause trouble in your family, but he loved me, and he loved his children." I felt the ground shift under me. "Children?" She pointed towards the inner room. Two small boys came out, one around 10, the other maybe 7. They both looked like my father, the same eyes, the same nose. My heart almost stopped. I didn't know whether to cry or shout. I just sat there staring at them. My mind was screaming questions. How could he do this? How could he hide them from us? Ngozi sat beside me. He was a good man, Chike. He took care of us, but when business started going bad, he borrowed money everywhere just to keep us safe. He didn't want people to know about us. I buried my face in my hands. The debts. All those loans I was killing myself to pay. They were for them, not for us, not for Mama, for this secret life. "Why didn't you come for the burial?" I asked in a shaking voice. "I wanted to," she said, crying now. "But your mother would have collapsed if she saw me. Your father begged me to stay hidden, even after his death." I stood up and walked to the door. My legs felt weak. "You don't understand what you've done to my family," I said. "You don't know what Mama has suffered." Ngozi wiped her tears. "I didn't plan this, Chike. I just loved your father. Please don't hate us." I couldn't answer. I stepped outside, breathing heavily like someone who had been running. As I walked down that road back to the park, the sun felt hotter than ever. My shirt was soaked with sweat and confusion. That day I knew my life would never remain the same. I was not just fighting my father's debts anymore. I was fighting the truth he left behind. For 2 nights, I just lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, thinking of my father's second family. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those 2 boys, his other sons, staring at me with faces that looked like mine. I didn't know how to tell Mama. She had been trying to smile small these days, even though the debts were still worrying her. How would I now open my mouth and say, "Mama, Papa had another wife and 2 children"? One afternoon, I was sitting outside trying to calculate how much debt remained when I heard a commotion at the gate. Obinna ran in shouting, "Chike, some woman is at the gate with 2 children. She said she's our father's wife." My heart stopped. Before I could stand up, Mama came out from the kitchen, her wrapper tied high on her chest. "What nonsense is that?" she shouted. Then Ngozi walked in, holding her 2 sons by the hand. My whole body went cold. Mama's eyes grew wide. She looked at Ngozi from head to toe, then at me. "Chike, who is this woman?" I didn't know what to say. My mouth was dry. Ngozi knelt down. "Mama, please don't be angry. I'm Ngozi, Chief Nana's wife. These are his children, too." The whole compound went silent. Even the birds stopped making noise. Mama took one slow step backward, then another. "Jesus Christ!" she screamed. "Nana, you have finished me." She fell to the ground and fainted. People rushed to carry her inside. Obinna started shouting at Ngozi, "Get out of this house! You're a liar! You want to eat from our sweat!" The neighbors gathered quickly. Some were whispering, some pretending to separate the fight. Ngozi was crying and begging, saying she only came because the landlord wanted to send her and her children away. I stood there like a tree, my heart breaking into small pieces. Later that night, when Mama woke up, she refused to eat or talk. She just sat on the bed, shaking her head and crying quietly. I tried to talk to her, but she turned away. "Chike," she said in a weak voice, "don't let those people step into this house again. If your father wants to disgrace us from the grave, I will not join him." I left her room and went outside. The moonlight fell on the empty chair where my father used to sit. I felt anger rising inside me. Anger at him, anger at the whole situation. I wanted to do what was right, but which one was right now? To chase Ngozi away and make her children suffer? Or to accept them and destroy my mother completely? That night, I realized something. The hardest part of a man's life is not paying money. It's paying for the mistakes of those who came before him. Days turned into weeks, and our house felt like a battlefield that had no winner. Mama stopped talking to me properly. She walked around like someone whose heart had been broken beyond repair. Obinna, too, had changed. He no longer respected me. He said I brought shame into the house by allowing that woman to step in. But deep inside me, I knew I couldn't hate Ngozi or those children. They didn't cause this. My father did. He built 2 lives, and when he died, both crashed on top of me. The debtors didn't care about our family problem. They kept coming, knocking, shouting, even threatening. One man said, "If you don't pay me by month end, I'll seize your father's land." I was tired. I was tired of crying faces, tired of insults, tired of trying to be the good son. So one morning, I called everyone to the sitting room, Mama, Obinna, Ngozi, and even the 2 small boys. They all sat down quietly. I looked at them one by one, and for the first time, I didn't see enemies. I saw people carrying pain from one man's decisions. "I've made my decision," I said. "I can't continue like this. Papa's debts must end with me." Mama frowned. "What are you planning again, Chike?" "I'm selling the small land at the back of the market," I said. "The money will clear the remaining debts." Mama's eyes widened. "That land is the only thing your father left for you." "I know," I said softly, "but I don't want to keep anything that will remind me of debt and shame. I want peace." Obinna shouted that I was foolish. Ngozi cried and said she didn't deserve any part of the estate. But I told her, "Your children are also Okoris. They'll get something too. I don't want any child to suffer because of a sin they didn't commit." When I sold the land, I took the last envelope of money and went to each person my father owed. I paid all of them one by one. Some blessed me, some still cursed my father, but I didn't care. On the last day, I went alone to his grave. The evening sun was soft, the wind gentle. I placed the final receipt on the tomb and whispered, "Papa, I've paid your debt, but not to protect your name, to protect my peace." For the first time in months, my heart felt light. I didn't cry, I didn't smile, I just stood there, feeling the quiet air around me. When I walked away, I didn't look back. The house I left behind was still divided, but something in me was free. I finally understood. A man's true wealth is not land or title or the name he leaves behind. It is the peace his children find after he's gone. And that I promised myself I would never lose again.